Good afternoon to you. It's Saturday, November 23rd at 1:58 p.m. Purdue is currently up by 40. It is not over. I decided to go the live look-in thing in the game this way. Purdue's up by 40 over Marshall right now. A minute 15 left. Purdue's cleared the benches. Pretty awesome. And they are in absolute cruise control. Really interesting, different game. Purdue showed some different looks. We all wondered, would Paint tinker a bit with the starting lineup? And he did. Instead of going with Berg to start out, he started Heidi. Purdue went with this small theme pretty much the entire first half. If I remember correctly, I don't think we saw TKR and First together on the floor, but we saw really a big dosage of TKR, and then First would come off the bench as the backup big. Berg, I don't believe played until very late in the game. I think it was about 6 minutes left. They put him in. So he came in cold. He's played okay. But the big story, I think, clearly is Purdue going with a small lineup. Heidi made Marshall pay. I think he's 3 for 3 from 3 today. It was all in the first half. I think he's got something like, I think he may have 12 points, something like that. I'll check the box in a second. It's 29 seconds left. Purdue's up by, Marshall's cut the lead to 38. Just lost the ball. Stolen by Marshall. A couple things that Marshall struggled with. They struggled with Purdue's physicality in spite of Purdue playing a smaller lineup. A couple Marshall guys were in foul trouble right away. They lost their big power forward. I think he's power forward center type, Martin, with about 8 minutes left in the game. That was a bad harbinger if you're a Marshall fan. And on top of that, they had 2 other guys with 4 fouls that really forced them to not be able to do what they wanted to do. They beat Purdue on the glass, which is really, really unusual, really interesting. Purdue took decent care of the ball. My guess is they have probably, I'm guessing 10 turnovers right now. I'll check the stats here in a second, but yeah, let me see if I did this. I don't know if I even did that right, but yeah, Purdue's played pretty well, but unusual. This is to me, this is what many Purdue fans asked for. We asked for a smaller, more aggressive, a bit more of a mobile team where Purdue could turn up the pace. The interesting thing is this is a work in progress because some of the things that we always think of as Purdue's strengths, Waddell is in the game, by the way. His broken finger is healed, and Purdue runs the clock out. Final score, 80-45 for your Boilermakers. Marshall cut the lead there at the end. Let's see. I can look at stats. Let's jump right into stats because I think I said a lot about the game. Kind of a quiet game for Lawyer. He only had 6 points. Interesting because I think he's been so steady. Every time Purdue needed a basket this year in any game that's all contended, he's been the guy that's made it happen. Today, he didn't need to. Let's just be real honest. Just didn't need to. He only shot the ball 3 times. That's crazy. But Trakoff and Wren, Marshall couldn't do anything about him. He was really, really resolute. The little sky hook was working from the jump. He finished at 7 of 12, 18 points, 3 boards, and assist. Cam Heidi, like I said, okay, finished with 13 points, a steal, 3 boards as well. Nobody jumps off the page cleaning the glass all that well, except for Raleigh Burgess. He had 5 boards and I wouldn't say limited minutes. He's probably played about what he has most of the season, but he looked good. He looked aggressive there. He shows flashes, right? You see something where you're like, okay, this guy's gonna be really good. He's very strong. He's very mobile. And he's got good athleticism. I'm watching the IU game right now. I have 5 games in front of me, which is awesome. I've got the quad view on the big TV, and then I've got the Purdue on BTN minus on my iPad. But it looks, is that an old thing or did that just happen? Yep, IU, that may break that game open, by the way. Ohio State's now up 21-7 over IU. I told you I really want to see IU win, but it's not like I'm going to be too upset about seeing Ohio State win. I just can't stand them. So looks to me like IU is going to have a hard time coming back from that deficit. IU was playing really tough. They had a couple big mistakes. They had a muffed, not a muffed punt, but the punter dropped the snap. It slipped out of his hands because it's been raining for a quarter and a half there. And because of that, Ohio State got the ball a very short field, scored 2 plays later. Now they just had a pick 6. So, no, back to the Purdue basketball. Back to the stats over here. Like I said, Trey Kaufman-Renn, very good. Miles Colvin, extremely solid. Again, Miles Colvin, it's funny how much different he is from last year. And I was wrong, by the way. That is a very small lineup. So Purdue went Colvin, Lawyer, Smith, Wren, Heidi to start the game. I missed, full disclosure, I missed the first few minutes because I couldn't get when you project Big Ten Network Minus onto a Samsung, sometimes it's a little glitchy because you have an Apple iPhone, in my case, the BTN app, and then you're projecting onto a Samsung television. There's a lot happening there, and it was a little finicky. I finally got it working probably 2-3 minutes into the game, and I've been watching the whole thing. If you didn't get to watch it, I hope you enjoy this little recap of the game, but you didn't miss much. I'll say that. My son said he accidentally slept in a little long. The noon kickoff was a bit early for a freshman in college. No surprise there. Kind of a weird kickoff, but because of the football game being last night, they had to move it someplace. Tons of football on right now, college football, and Purdue playing basketball, of course, at noon. But he didn't miss much. And if you watch this as well, I think you'd agree. Not too exciting of a game, not too exciting of a first half. Purdue kind of kept Marshall at an arm's length, 14 to 16 point lead. Let's say 13 to 15 point lead. Let's do that early in the first half. And then Purdue just kind of wore them down. Interesting because you think when you wear a team down, it's an issue of just them being stronger or whatever. But Marshall stayed close by rebounding the ball really well. Purdue's defense was good. They were in passing lanes all day for Marshall. Frustrated the hell out of them. They had a couple, at least one shot clock violation where Marshall didn't even get to square up like they were going to shoot, let alone get a shot off. So the defense with the smaller lineup looks really good and really convincing to me that it could be great. But I guarantee a painter is going to be pretty frustrated with the fact that Purdue rebounded this poorly, and they really did. But there's a trade-off, right? When you say you're going to play this many guards, that's going to happen. Let's see who came off the bench. CJ Cox, he had 4 points. Jakari Harris played really well. When he got in, he was solid. 6 points, 4 assists. That's the big story. My son asked me, how did Heidi get his looks? I said, he was just getting open looks in the corner, really. It was either Braden Smith on the drive kicking it out to him or Jakari Harris. I remember both of them having an assist to Heidi in the corner. Braden Smith, weird game, 0 points, 3 boards. But check this one out. 9 assists. Pretty noteworthy, pretty great for Smith. Very selfless game, very solid. He kind of had the ball on a string. He was doing all sorts of things to Marshall just to keep him off balance. Marshall had a short white guy, what was his name? Ryan Nutter, who was trying to guard Smith, doing everything he could. He had his hands full though. Nutter had his hands full, and it's some funny names, the whole thing. The BTN had a girl named Ellie Ferdelli or something like that. I think she's a Purdue student. And Ray Davis came down from Chicago to do color, which was really nice to hear. He's a pro, but it's not the kid's fault. There's a Purdue student who was doing play-by-play. He did a great job, actually. Really good job, really solid, has a good voice for TV or radio. I don't know the kid's name. Maybe you guys can tell me in the comments. But he did great, and congratulations to him for getting to share the booth with Ray Day. That's very cool. Davis seems like a gracious guy in that sort of situation too. Caleb First, by the way. So I told you he split some time with TKR in the first half. TKR would just come out to get a break. Caleb First was very solid, extremely solid game. 8 points, but he did it at the free throw line. He was drawing fouls, and he was kind of doing the difficult work. One thing I think Coach Payne will be annoyed with, and this is gonna hurt First if you look ahead. This is something I think Purdue fans might be annoyed with just generally. Just one board. I think it's tough to swallow. At the same time, CJ Cox had 4 rebounds, so that's unusual. I'm gonna go to your comments now since we're already moving. Let's see if I can't even figure out where I am. I've got like 1,000 tabs as I watch this and get everything done. But IC says first. Yes, you are first, IC. And there are not a ton of people on here. Maybe there's a little fatigue from all the fun we had last night for football, or the fact that this Marshall game was on BTN minus, or the fact that it was a noon tip-off, or the fact that Purdue just kind of cruised away with this game. Regardless, winning by nearly 40 points is something that it doesn't happen all the time. I don't think Marshall's that bad of a team, but Purdue just really kind of dictated the way the game was going to be played. Very similar. Purdue maybe a little frustrated. Maybe they were sound and looking to do things well since they got their asses kicked so handily by Marquette and Milwaukee. Who knows? Zach Welch says, I love the new starting lineup. Yeah, that's the lineup that I think a lot of us thought we'd see this season, right? When we were looking ahead in the summer. So that was nice to see. And not only did they start, but then they produced. There's some work, though. I love the pace of that starting lineup. I love the upside of that starting lineup. I bet, I'm just betting, Anish loves that starting lineup as well. He loves potential, and I didn't see any of the deep analytics, the plus minus numbers on this game. The site that I used to have the box score didn't offer it, so I'm curious to see that, but. Oh, let's look back. That's one more thing to look at in the stats before we go final here. So Purdue shot the free throw well, 78.8%. That's a gripe that many Purdue fans have had this season. Purdue's been shooting it, in the high 60s. Shot it 33 times, too, so that's old school. Here's an interesting... Purdue ended up beating Marshall on the in the rebounding battle, which is a little bit surprising since they were down most of the game. So it really comes in garbage time. Purdue's guys came off the bench and attacked the glass, which is awesome. They wanted it. Purdue had 18 assists as a team. That's awesome. And 8 steals. So really, really, it's a solid game. It's if you want to go back and watch it, like LBD said he was going to go back and watch. I said, I don't know if you need to do that. I don't know if you're going to, other than watching that first. Well, really, the funny thing is when you had the big guns in the game, when you had that starting lineup, Lawyer, Smith, Harris didn't start, Colvin, Heidi, and TKR. There you go. When you had that starting lineup, Purdue they weren't really explosive. They're just kind of letting the game come to them. And then they just started scoring in bunches and keeping Marshall from getting into any offensive rhythm. Marshall got in big foul trouble. That was the other thing. The fouls that Marshall used, I say used, I mean, they were just needless. I felt like the way they fouled was like they were trying to keep the game physical, but they didn't know really how to do it the right way. Their big man, Martin, like I said, just absolutely, when he would foul a guy, it was brutal. And it wasn't cheap. It was just, man, he didn't mess around when he was fouling, like playing a baby gorilla or something. He was beaten up on the Boilermakers, and then their other bigs just struggled. Every time they got a foul, they were surprised. And then they just showed the replay, and you'd be like, no, you knocked the hell out of him. That's a legit foul. So Big Time Boiler says, got the lineup, been clamoring for today. Exactly. I think you're not alone, Grant. A lot of people want to see this. He continues, says, has Walters been fired yet? Come on, Mike. Nope, no word yet. Nothing yet, but who knows? Who knows? KMKV6 says, agree, love the starting lineup. This is the big story today. Clearly, Jeff Nestor says, Willie Berg. Willie Berg played at the end of the game. What was his stat line? I didn't even look at that. That's not right of me. But he got a couple fouls. I know that. He got 3 fouls in limited minutes. I had 6 points and 3 boards. So I think they used him less, and if I'm going to make a bet, I think this athleticism and smaller lineup makes just more sense to me right now. The way Purdue is suited right now, I think this team can grow up a lot. We thought we'd see Jacobson take big leaps during the season. I think everybody was looking forward to watching Jacobson grow up. Well, that didn't go according to plan. So now you have to go with, how do you get the most production on the floor at one time? And this small lineup, this is very unusual, but you know what's interesting? Painter has broken this reputation years ago of Purdue being this plodding team. They don't really do that. I know Edey was a big, strong guy, but Purdue scored points. This lineup has potential just to be explosive as hell because everybody on the court can shoot the 3, which is really dangerous, right? So what Purdue was doing is spreading Marshall way out. And then when they try to get on a double team or have a guy pop out, TKR would dive. And when he dove, he would get wide open dunks. First got a wide open dunk. They had a couple times where the dive had happened and Marshall would get there late and just smash whoever Purdue was trying to get to the hoop. But the really interesting thing, like I said, Smith and Lawyer weren't really looking for their shots. So very, very interesting, very, very different, but fun game in that sense. Not the most entertaining game. I think we can have both of those. KMKV6 says, didn't watch the game. What was going on with Smith? 0 points. Like he was just looking to distribute, honestly. Really patient. He was waiting for action to happen. Guys getting, Purdue ran some stuff that had Marshall very confused, but they were spread way out. Really even spacing. Kind of nice to see. Not as much movement as I'd like to see out of that even spacing when the guys didn't have the ball and weren't getting a play called. Like remember last game versus Marquette. One thing I love about watching Lawyer play in the more traditional lineup is he runs curls like Reggie Miller, in my opinion. He just moves all the time, makes it very difficult. But we didn't see as much of that today. Granted, he didn't play. I haven't seen the minutes count, but he didn't play a ton of minutes. Not for Smith and Lawyer did not play anywhere near their normal minutes. So, Jeff Netzer says 20 offensive rebounds for Marshall. Yikes! Yeah, it's stats can lie, and it didn't feel like the Marquette game was much more frustrating from that standpoint where, and even the Alabama game where second and third looks happened, this didn't feel like that. They'd get a second look and then Purdue would kind of get in position on defense and stop them. So not bad. Not as bad. Sorry, I'm distracted by the IU and Ohio State game. Okay. Ron Gable says, oh, it was a punt return for a TD. Thank you, Ron. Yeah, I watched the tail end. I turned it on. Thank you. Appreciate it. So, number 2, I don't know who that is. Is that Ibukwe? Is that his name? Mbukwe? I don't know anybody in Ohio State. I'm okay with it. But this is another interception. No, it's a reception. Sorry. Can't do two things at once. And if anybody knows me, knows that this is the case. It's really tough for me to do two things at once. My brothers make fun of me about it. I'm okay with admitting it. You can't be this good looking and have everything put together. I mean, give me a break. Jeff Nestor said, first perfect from the line. Yep, that 6 for 6 number is really good. Continues, says, but needs to finish around the rim. Yeah, that's a problem he's got. He had a very, very, it was an easy dunk, but it was all on the play where he dove and, it looked like he was going to rip the rim down. He's got athleticism, man. This is the thing. I'm a Caleb first believer. You guys know that. Brother Ted says, call me crazy. I'm still seeing promise for Burgess. No. I'm with you. Still disappointed by Berg. I want Berg benched and Burgess starting at the 5. Okay. So, I don't think Purdue should say that about any big at this point. I think they got to continue to play a lot of guys. I think Burgess, you're absolutely right to have belief in Burgess. I think he's going to be good. But Berg's going to be important too in games because just his size and strength. And we've seen it already this year. He's a handful. And he can do some things, but he fouls way too much. So he's got a role. It's just not what we're used to. Let's say that. Okay. So, Matt McPhail brings up the point, no Berg until very late. Doghouse. I don't think it's a doghouse thing. I don't think that's it. I think it's just that Painter is trying to get as many minutes with this smaller lineup as he could. In fact, we didn't see 2 big men on the court at the same time. Tell me if I'm wrong, anybody who watched BTN minus. I don't think we saw 2 big men on the court at the same time until, I would bet, 12-minute mark in the second half. So you played combinations of smaller guys, wings and guards, if I remember correctly. So, and I could be wrong. I was watching it and doing one other thing, doing some Christmas shopping, honestly. So, Big Ten minus is not great. Jeff Nestor says, great first half by Heidi. Yep. 3 for 3 from 3. Tariq Camel says, new starting lineup is the best unless a bigger team, in that case, sub first for Heidi. Yeah, it seems like a pretty simple solution. I would not do that, though. I might, I don't know. Well, I don't know if first for Heidi is the answer. And I want it to be the answer. I just don't know if it's the answer. So Chris R says 4 for 32 from 3. 12 for 21 from 2 for Marshall. Explains the weird rebounding. Yeah, it was Purdue frustrated them. Purdue, Ray Davis kept saying Marshall's a better team than this. They look better. If you look at their schedule, they were 3-1 coming in. They're 3-2 now. They hadn't played anybody. My guess is they were overwhelmed by what Purdue threw at them, and it was just a lot. Their schedule has not been hard yet, and I don't know if it's going to get super hard just because of the nature of being a Sun Belt team, but yeah, they did know what they're doing. Chris Harder says, your beard is looking great. Yeah, so thank you, Chris. But the thing I'm really contemplating putting a little color in this part right down here. I told everybody last night that my wife is not on board, nor is my daughter, but sometimes you got to do things just to see how it goes. And I keep seeing, so the problem, I don't know if you guys have an iPhone, but when you get on FaceTime, iPhones do something funny. See, I think this is fine. How YouTube is how I look. iPhone, I look like Santa Claus. My beard is so white in the chin because of the HDR photography it's built in, the way the colors are dialed up. I hate it. And I either need it all to go gray so I can just look gray, but the contrast of the changing colors here, so I appreciate it though, Chris. You're an excellent liar. Brother Ted says, starters, Smith, Lawyer, Colvin, TKR, and Burgess. That's the way Brother Ted wants to see it. I think that's an interesting lineup, and maybe at the end of the season we'll see some of that with Burgess coming along. I just don't know if we'll see it yet. So work in progress. And I like the fact, this is one thing I like, Painter's trying to figure this out, and we've seen this before. This is why I thought this season would be like this, boys and girls. This is what I thought Purdue would have. They've got guys on the team. They got athletes. They got scorers. They just don't know exactly how everybody fits together, and not everybody's fully baked yet. So, yeah. TKR Camel, Tariq Camel says, I bet the plus minus for first so far this season is one of the highest on the team. Draws a lot of fouls and impacts the glass. Yeah, he's really solid player, and but at times he looks lost still, right? I mean, I don't think I'm being unfair to the guy. I hope I'm not being unfair. Like I said, this is a guy that I want to see succeed greatly. I think he's super important to this team, especially the way it's constituted right now. Purdue needs him to be as good as his potential. But something about maybe he just doesn't have the killer instinct that I would love for him to have. Maybe he's too much of a nice guy on the court. That could be it. He seems like a really nice guy, period. So could be it. KMKV6 says, did you listen to Smith's post-game interview? I did not, after the Marquette game. It was kind of odd where he said something like he didn't know how to help other players. Made me a bit concerned. I think that game frustrated a lot of people. I think it's really, really good. Right after the game, I think he meant that. He didn't know what to do to make things better. But I guarantee you, watching the film was really good for that team. They were all frustrated and rattled. That was a very good road game, meaning you had a crowd that was pretty much on top of Purdue. They were loud. And then you had some of the most frustrating defense Purdue will play all season. That is really, really good scheduling. Ray Davis talked about this today during the Big Ten Network telecast. Internet cast, whatever stream, that Painter designs the schedule in a brilliant way to get teams ready and to make it difficult. And Brian Newbert said something on their podcast this week. Painter designs the schedule for Purdue to lose. He just hasn't gone according to plan the last few years, which is really interesting. I never heard anybody actually say it, but that's absolutely what Painter's doing. Bring in the hardest hitting teams you can, right? Hit Purdue all pre-con and have them ready for the regular season, and then really mentally tough by March is the plan, right? It's the way it should go. It hasn't gone that way. I don't know if you've noticed that in every year, but it's a good theory. And it really it's a root from Tom Izzo used to do the same thing. And I think Izzo still does it. Just absolutely load up the pre-con. And the pollsters don't really take it out on you if you lose to one of those good teams. Next up, of course, I kind of bypassed this. I thought Purdue had two weaker opponents or lesser opponents before starting the tournament in San Diego. Turns out Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, they play NC State. It's a good team. They're not NC State from last year. Like I said the other night, they've lost a lot. They're a much different team. They're still good, though. still good. And so good, another good test. And then you got the potential of BYU or Ole Miss right after that. So very good schedule. Very, very well-designed schedule. Tarek Camel says, your glasses game is business. Thank you. They should put you in the next Lord of the Rings movie. Well, I don't know. Those two things to me, I don't know. I appreciate, I think that's a compliment. But yeah, I've got 5 pairs of glasses, and I used to rotate them all the time, but these are just the best ones. So I appreciate you noticing them. That's funny. Gentry BN says, why is our team so slow down the court, even with small lineup? Seems like we still move at Edie speed. I watch other teams and they, pound step on me. Watch other teams and they would already be at the rim before even inbound. Well, if you're thinking about specific teams, so this is the cool thing about this season. Again, Purdue, Ohio State is stepping on IU, by the way. It's 28-7 now. No, a lot of people want to see that happen. I don't want to see Ohio State win ever. I like the underdog, like I said, but the underdog's not going home with a W today. It's going to get worse for IU. It's going to get a lot worse, I think. Damn it. Urban Meyer was right. Hate that. Urban Meyer talked up that IU wouldn't be able to handle Ohio State's athleticism and their star power, meaning all the athletes and 5 stars on the roster. As it turns out, he was correct. So, yeah, I lost my train of thought. I'll keep going. Ripset said, got to get Burgess more minutes. Agree, but there's only so many minutes. He has by far the highest ceiling. The kid hustles so hard. So when you say by far the highest ceiling, you think on the entire team. I would argue that. I think Cox and Harris have an incredibly high ceiling. And I don't know, we could debate this and talk about this, but I just think I think if I'm going to guess who's going to leave Purdue, see, one thing that Burgess got on his side, obviously you've thought of this, is that being a big man for Matt Painter is advantageous. You're going to get looks. Burgess's ability he's very strong. He's a good athlete, and he can shoot. He can pop out and shoot the 3. So you've got a couple of bigs on the lineup right now that can do that, and that is very different than what we've seen last couple of years with Edie holding down the fort. But Edie could shoot the 3. He just didn't have the quickness really to get out there, and Purdue's lineup was different with him. They were going to say, okay, we're going to take the highest percentage shot, period. Most of the time you can't stop Edie, even with a double team. Superhumans are tough to play. I don't know if you know that. They are. Gerald Huff says, it was nice to see Waddell get some playing time. Agreed. He's Purdue's new victory cigar. Yeah, it's good to see that. That's another guy that I just kind of wish I wanted to see more. I was at Purdue when his dad was at Purdue, and I love legacies that come to Purdue and decide to be there. I don't think he regrets anything. It's just the career hadn't gone quite the way he may have thought it was going to go. Gentry Bean says Heidi needs to start all along for his confidence. It might be a difference maker for first 2. I don't know. Yeah, I think Heidi is in the starting lineup. I think that's one that I think he's in there. And I think he has to be in there because his mentality on the boards is something that Purdue desperately needs, but also his ability to pop out and shoot 3. He's got a quick release, pretty. He and Colvin, man, they're fun to watch. I'll skip down a little bit, see if, these are all repeat comments, but Ripset says, first has experience, but he never took the step. No bag, not enough bounce, a lot in here. Falls asleep out there sometimes. Looks better this year because others are so raw. First is a pretty, I've talked about this, about the idea of somebody being a finished product. There are so many guys on Purdue's roster right now that are not as good as they're going to be by the end of their college career. And when I say that, you've got most, I think Lawyer is who he is. Smith is who he is. I think TKR can still get better. I really mean that because his role is so expanded. I think he can get better. And he will get better. But at the same time, I think first is who he is. It's tough the thing that I say he needs more than anything is just fire in his belly. I just don't know if he has it. But seems like literally the nicest dude that's come through Purdue's program in a long time. Speaking of nice dudes who came through the program, Lance Jones was there today and he got his Final Four ring. That's very, very cool. Good to see. What a great addition to the program he's been. What a great addition to the Purdue family he's been. If you interact with him on Twitter, he's awesome. Jim Arvin says, Waddell's hand is still hurt, FYI. Okay, so finger is still healing, but he had a broken finger. I don't know which one it was. Maybe you know, Jim. Brother Ted says Cox greater than Harris, Colvin greater than Cox. Yeah, well, right now, yeah, I'd say right now. I love the Cox and Harris combo. I think these guys are, it's interesting because we saw Lawyer and Smith get thrust into duty right away, right? They both played as freshmen. Of course, something to think about, and I don't know, is either, and you guys can make this decision, either Cox or Harris, if you go back in the time machine 3 years, would either of them have started as true freshmen from the jump like Lawyer and Smith did? I think so. And I don't know. It's funny, like Peyton has a lot of trust in Harris, right? He's started a few games already. And I have a lot of trust in Harris too, but Cox is so dynamic. And I think he's a Purdue type guy. Talk about a guy with fire in his belly, guy with a chip on his shoulder. That's your dude. So a lot of fun today. One more. Let's see. Tarek Campbell says, first to junior by minutes, he can get better. You can make that decision. I think first is what he is. So I think if they try to play him straight up, just as a big man, right? Not as a complimentary big man, meaning not the focus of the offense. When he and TK are on the court, I think he's better because he's not a banger by any means, right? We've seen it over and over. So if you can, have him pop out and hit a three, it's a pretty good place for him. So Ripstead said Harris needs to get more downhill. I agree, and I think he will. I think his confidence in his ability to beat the guy across from him is not there yet because he's used to being the best player on the court like he was down in Georgia, and he's not now. Right now, it's a little bit different, but it's kind of like we saw from Colvin at times last year, a little bit of apprehension. But Colvin figured out. Also, Colvin may have had a little bit healthier ego on him right out of the jump. But, man, Colvin is steady now. He's the right guy for the job. So, all right, that's it. Final score, Purdue wins 80-45. Purdue improves to what, 4-1? 5-1, my apologies. 5-1 on the young season. Next up, they play NC State on Thanksgiving Day. Hope you get to enjoy some time. Is that right? I think that's right. Yeah, that's right. Hope you get to enjoy your family in the meantime. What a blessing it is to have people that you actually like to spend time with. You don't have to do it, but you like to spend time with them. So be thankful for that. And God bless you guys. Hammer down. Talk to you soon. Anything breaks, you'll hear it here. One of us will come on to say, otherwise, see you at the Handsome Hour, 9 o'clock on Monday. I think we'll have a normal one. See ya.